Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to We the People podcast show, just premiering today, July 22nd. And with me, I have podcast and radio host Mike Essen, known for the Mike Essen Show. He's in South Florida and also known as the South Florida Conservative Voice. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today as we are launching the We the People podcast, in addition to the blogs that we have been writing for quite some time. Thank you for being here.
Pleasure's mine, Karina. Thank you for having me.
You have a long history of doing radio shows and speaking with elected officials. And so, can you please give the audience just a brief bio on yourself?
Sure, I started in radio in 1999, co-hosting a show on terrestrial radio called the Steve Kane Show for 6 years during the Bush administration. I started a podcast in 2007. It wasn't really a very big thing for a while because podcasting was still a little scarce then. But after a while, it grew bigger and bigger. My first big guest was Alan West. I had Ben Carson on. I had Ron DeSantis when he ran for the U.S. Senate. I later on Blog Talk Radio, which I started in 2017, had Marco Rubio, Oliver North, Byron Donalds, Ted Nugent. I debated Gloria Allred on abortion, actually, and I covered CPAC
Yeah, I
2022.
remember we did
And
that
I
together too.
we did that together. It was a pleasure, Karina. Thank you. Someone named
It
Karina
was so
Schmitt, you know
much,
her very
it was a
well,
lot of fun.
has filled in for me on my show, and I've spoken to many local organizations. I love it. I'm back on the air right now. Still South Florida's conservative voice, and the Mike Essen Show is on YouTube. Click like and subscribe.
And I encourage people to do that. And the same, please like and subscribe and share, of course, the We the People podcast show as well. Mike, I want to dive right into it because we are once again in an election year, and many people see that
Mhm.
the 2026 election is just another election cycle. But from your perspective, Mike, why do you believe that this election could be the defining moment for preserving or, fundamentally changing the idea of a constitutional republic with and note this, a limited government, which is what was intended by our founding fathers? Your perspective.
It's very crucial, Karina. I want to talk about it at the federal and state level, if I may. The federal level, if the Democrats, it's very possible, I'm not going to lie and say there's no chance it's going to happen, take over the House and the Senate. They have four things in mind. The first three are to impeach Donald Trump. The fourth is to codify Roe versus Wade. The impeachment will take up the whole country. Nothing will get accomplished. And Roe versus Wade itself is unconstitutional. It's constitution silent about abortion. The things that are happening now, the Save America Act trying to pass, the reform, the war in Iran, they will block funds for it, support we keep ourselves safe. That will be stinted. And Trump's appointments will have a very hard time getting through, which I'm a very, very big fan of many of them. On the state level, let's say David Jolly or, God forbid, Jerry Demings wins the Democrat governor's seat instead of Byron Donalds or Paul Renner or someone like that. There's going to be gridlock. There's going to be a Republican legislature. A lot of them are very moderate, by the way, which concerns me. But nothing will get accomplished. They're the kinds to cave in. And I'm sorry to say this, red flag laws, many of them support, which go completely against Second Amendment and completely against the presumption of innocence, which is the Fourth and the 15th Amendment. We have a crucial election. We got to fight for it.
Thank you, Mike. And I know you have interviewed over the years hundreds of candidates and elected officials. You've
Mm-hmm.
endorsed many as well. You've interviewed political leaders over the years that many have a hard time just getting to come to a local meeting or for example, a Republican executive meeting to speak there. In your experience, what separates someone who merely campaigns as a constitutional conservative from somebody that consistently governs according to the constitutional principles that we have in office and that they're supposed to be governing us from? They're supposed to protect our rights, and yet many of them don't. How do you distinguish between them?
You have to either look at their past in office or their past as an activist or whatever they have done in the past or past writings, past statements. When suddenly there's a shift in position, like let me give you a perfect example. When Mitt Romney ran against Barack Obama in 2012, He shifted every position he had. He was the Republican version of John Kerry, who shifted it 8 years earlier for president. But when you have a Ted Cruz or a Josh Hawley or someone locally like an Anthony Sabatini or our beloved Governor Ron DeSantis, when he was congressman, who had a proven record of supporting the Constitution, supporting freedom, or even someone who runs before Sabatini was elected state representative, he was an activist who did all those things, supported candidates like that. So you have to look at their past and look at code words. When they say they support sensible gun restrictions, gun control, they're against Second Amendment. Jay Collins, who's running for governor, and this scares me, said he's for banning hate speech. That is completely against the First Amendment, and that's a very slippery slope. And I'm very scared that he said that. I don't think he'll get elected, but it's very troubling.
Absolutely. How do you feel about the career politicians, I usually call them, and many others do too, that are elected to an office and then halfway through, they swear a commitment to that office for a period of, for example, 4 years or 2 years in some cases. When they're sworn in for 4 years and they put their little paw up there, I swear to fulfill this position for the next 4 years, and then suddenly they shift gears sometimes, and we've seen this in Charlotte County. They do it right after they're reelected, and then start running for a different position. Do you think that that type of person is working in agreement with a conservative government and a limited government, and one that puts the people before themselves? What's your perspective?
Not whatsoever, no. In fact, it's just an excuse for power. It's power hungry politicians and people who are, like you said, career politicians. That's why term limits, if they get enacted, and they're here in some local level, and we have them for governor, we have them for president. I support that. We need them for the Congress. Ron DeSantis and Ted Cruz, two of my favorite politicians in the country, kept proposing that when DeSantis was in Congress, and they didn't want it because they didn't want to get elected out of office. But let's say we don't have term limits. The voters are the ones who determine limit them out. I'm not saying replace them with Democrats, but primary them, but hold them accountable. That was the whole message of the Tea Party: be accountable.
Correct.
And the problem is that lobbyists you have to fight, and there's groups that fight lobbyists. Great groups like someone I had on my show the other week, Anthony Verdugo, the Christian Family Coalition. He's a lobbyist who fights the bad lobbyists. Someone like Linda Bell, Florida Right to Life. She's a great lobbyist. I've had her on my show many times, who fights the bad lobbyists. Or even groups like Turning Point USA or Students for Life or even National Rifle Association, who are powerful. Support those groups. Locally, it's the Gun Owners of America in Florida, Luis Valdez, who we both interviewed, who do a great job.
Yes,
Hold their feet
absolutely.
to the fire, go to town meetings and call them out.
Great organization too to support our Second Amendment for sure. They do a lot of fantastic work. Really, I support them
Absolutely.
as well. Over the years, like I said, you've interviewed a lot of people, and here's one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with. Many candidates describe themselves as a conservative or a constitutionalist, a Republican. But what specific questions do you encourage voters, and they're out there now having to make a decision once again? What specific questions do you feel that voters should ask, and what warning signs should they look for in a candidate, besides the fact that, they're flipping office in the middle of, serving one office, and then a few months later they decide to run for a different office, sort of to determine whether that this candidate is genuinely committed to a limited, which is very important, a limited rather than a limited government, rather than simply using the language as part of their campaign marketing. What kind of questions should they ask? Because it's, in my perspective, it's a job interview. This is a job that they are interviewing for, and we, the public, we, the people, are the ones that are the hiring managers. Your perspective.
I think you have to ask them have they done in the past. See, you can judge a person by their past, and you can judge a book by their cover. Let me give you, for instance, let's say a Republican I don't like at all is Maria Salazar. She's a liberal Republican. She definitely is. She's the World Health Organization, a communist organization. I'm not calling her a communist,
Absolutely.
but you know what I'm saying. But she supports amnesty. She supports gun control. She's a climate change supporter, supported the January 5th impeachment committee. If she ran for the Senate, and she's not the only one, I'm just saying someone like that, call her out on those things. If people campaign for her, call them out on that too. Because there's a lot of liberal Republicans out there who in many ways are
Mm-hmm.
worse than liberal Democrats because they're wolf in sheep's clothing. But you don't have to be that far to the left to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. Take someone like, Rick Scott. I'm not saying he's completely in Maria Salazar's camp. He supported red flag laws. He supported gun control. He was a decent governor, especially during the hurricane, but he was lackluster in the human life issue. Call him out on that and say, what do you do? Say, if you don't go by the right to life, the Second Amendment, lowering taxes, adhering to the Constitution like you swore an oath to, you will not get our vote. We will not nominate you, and you should resign from office. To break an oath to our country is worse than breaking an oath to your neighbor. It really is.
I totally agree with you. Um, this is not just about state and national elections because I feel that, and many see the same thing, politics starts locally. For those that are running for commissioners or school board, what kind of questions do you feel that would be good for the voters to ask? How do they scrutinize and vet? And we're talking about people that may have not voted before. It could be kids just coming out of high school or college, they're voting for the first time, or people that are just getting their citizens. And I'm talking about legal immigrants that went through the process, got their citizenship, did all the right things, entered the country legally. What are some of the questions that they should be asking, for example, commissioners as they're running for office?
Let's start with commissioners, and I'll go to school board members. Commissioners, will you serve in the best interest of the people and keep our taxes low? That's a big thing. Do not raise property taxes. Do not raise taxes. Will you support small businesses? Will you reform our police? Will you support our men in blue, women in blue? Those are big ones. And if they have secondary double talk, red flag, pardon the pun with red flag laws we were talking about. If they say absolutely, go for them. I've endorsed many local candidates in the past, and some have done very well with that. I mean, take someone locally like Brian Calvo, the mayor of Hialeah. He's done a great job when he got elected. I remember endorsing him when I spoke to the Miami Republican Liberty Caucus.
Mm-hmm.
For school board, I think just as important. I think you have to stick to the 3 R's. You were a school board candidate, you know this.
Correct.
And you have to not have propaganda in the schools. To have the rainbow flag in our classrooms, child abuse, strictly child,
Absolutely.
pure and simple. I love a video I saw where a woman removes it out of the class and said, "Don't indoctrinate or abuse my kids." I love that video.
That was
I
a
shared
good
it on
one.
Twitter. I shared it on Facebook. I absolutely loved it. And to also, yeah, to fight school bullying too. That's a terrible epidemic that's going on. Kids are afraid to go to school. They're traumatized. It's horrible. I also think we have to not force kids to do community service. That's not, Obama wanted to do that. That was horrible. So the 3 R's, no indoctrination. I'm a big believer in fighting school bullying. I talked about that on my show a lot. I had the Vice Mayor Hialeah, Monica Perez, who's a teacher, talking about that. And if their past shows differently, if they vote differently and run for re-election, fly a kite, guys.
Thank you. If a constitutionalist failed to win these key races here in 2026, what do you see as the long-term consequences for federalism, separation of powers, individual liberties, the relationship between citizens and government on the other side? And conversely, what opportunities do you believe exist if they do succeed? We're at a pivotal point, I think, in our country, both at the local, state, and national level. What do you think?
Absolutely. Let's start with the local, then I'll go to state, then I'll go to national. And I'll wrap it up. I'll wrap those three. Locally, people have to adhere to the state constitution and the law, and not to not to be political progressive activists and just do what they think is right, regardless of what they're told. A lot of revolutionaries had the attitude in the past: my world, my rules. I don't care what you say, whatever it takes. Just like, imagine if Zoran Mondami or Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren were in your school board. Someone could be that way, and it would be a
Mm-hmm.
very dangerous world. Or be in your county commission seat. They don't care about the Constitution. Phil Murphy, the governor of New Jersey, said, "I don't care about the Constitution." I hate to give him credit for being honest, but a lot of leftists feel that way, and it's true. Constitutionalists adhere to it because it's a sacred document. And on the state level, you may have David Jolly or not Val Demings, Jerry Demings, say that if they will sign an executive order to abolish the heartbeat bill, abolish permitless carry, overhaul the Constitution with Green New Deal policies, gender ideology, things that have nothing to do with the Constitution, but are just leftist agendas. And hopefully the Republican, my concern is not, I know there's a Republican majority, but there's a lot of gutless Republicans in the Florida legislature because Anthony Sabatini, who was a true constitutionalist, was shunned and had a seat in the basement. That's how cowardly a lot of them are. I'll call them out if I see them. I've been very upset at
Oh,
the
they're
Republican Party
everywhere.
for not fighting back many years.
We have
Yes, now
problems with that even
nationally,
at the local level, where they are abusing their powers and they're completely ignoring the fact that they're supposed to support and uphold the Constitution, which calls for a limited government. It calls for
mhm.
fiscal responsibility. It calls for asking of a bill, is this a sound bill? Does this bill actually make sense? Is it something that we as a community can afford, or is it going to force us to borrow money or raise taxes? And many of these local politicians, I hate to say it, they could care less. They are all about redistribution
It's
of
local
funds
state.
and
Sorry,
enriching themselves. Now, if you had a front row seat in the modern politics through your interviews, looking beyond the party levels and the personalities and so on, what do grassroots voters need to do differently in 2026? Not just on election day, but also throughout the campaign season. And we are starting now to see the ballots, the mail-in ballots coming out. What can they do to help elect candidates who will uphold the Constitution and strengthen a limited form of government, as we've talked about? And I'm talking especially about candidates that are running for the first time.
I think it's a great question, Karina. Many ways to go about this is voter guides. Now, there's only two organizations that I talked about in the past that have them: Christian Family Coalition, the Faith and Freedom Coalition. They and many others. They're not the only two. Look what they stand for. Now, I'm somebody, one of the few people who were political who doesn't like get out the vote drives. So you're getting out people who are uninformed. It really doesn't make sense to me at all. But when people are informed, when people know what the candidates stand for, if you have to wait 2 hours to polls, that's fine. If you can't go to the polls, you have to do it by mail, that's fine too. Vote for constitutionalists. I'm going to say it, vote for conservatives. They're the ones who adhere to the Constitution,
Hmm.
not people who call themselves that and vote differently. They're either constitutionalist or conservative.
Thank you. How can people find your show? Where do they find
There's
you?
a website in progress, but it's not yet up. But go to the type in the Mike Essen Show on YouTube. And I want to announce two guests I'm very proud of coming up. I
Go
am
ahead.
Ralph Reed, chairman of the Faith and Freedom Coalition, is going to be on the show today. It's going to be up next week. And I am going to interview. I'm going to endorse Paul Renner, who is a true constitutionalist, in 2 weeks for governor of Florida. He's coming on the Mike Essen Show. Click subscribe, and please, if you like them, like my videos. I was solo on one, and there were three other great guests: Mike Velarde, Anthony Verdugo, and Jim Callinger. Please like and subscribe, and I love your show, Karina. You do a great job. You always have.
Thank you so much. I want to just address our audience real quick before we round up today. The reason why we're doing the show this way, I'm inspired actually by Mike Essen that I've worked with, as I said, in the past, and to keep everything raw, unedited, unfiltered. So often you see podcasts, and not to criticize technology, but you oftentimes see podcasts and TV shows. We are inundated with fancy, flashy things that scroll across the street, and we don't really see the people that are actually talking sometimes because there's so much distraction on the screen. What I'd like to do with a podcast here and what we have done as radio host as well, and I know this is how you got started as well, Mike, is to just keep it very simple, very direct, keep the dialogue in front of people. And the same as when we record our meetings, there are no editing. We have not prettied up thing and we're not cutting things out. This is the raw file that we're going to upload, and it's for the people, and it's putting us in the center, not the politicians, because, and I'm sure, Mike, you would agree with me when I say, I've said this before, politicians are employees of us. And I think many of them fail to see this. They fail to understand once they get that stardom going on for them. They fail to understand that they work for us. They're representatives of us. What do you say, Mike?
I totally agree with that. A lot of them, when they're caught with lobbyists, and sometimes even death threats, I have to say that. I know that happens.
Oh,
I
it
don't know how
happens
often.
even in a small
Or
county like
lobbyists, the
Charlotte
people are
County.
forgotten. But if you're going to be that scared to fight, even for your country, even for the people, you shouldn't be in office.
I absolutely
If you're
agree.
bought off by special interests, or you're bought off by some mafia punk, resign. If you violate the Constitution, it shouldn't be Trump who's impeached, it should be you. And
Agreed.
people out there, they work for you. Hold their feet to the fire, vote, and hold them accountable. That was the message of the Tea Party. One of my favorite guests I ever had, Ted Nugent, made that point very clear all the time.
There's one last thing I want to address here that we have not really discussed earlier, and that is integrity of elections, and securing that we have free elections and votes are not tampered with. That has been a massive problem in so many places, both here in Florida, but also across the United States. I see it as a big issue that we have our supervisor of election in Charlotte County that has just taken a position after many say that the election in 2024 was rigged. She's now on the FEC. What is your perspective on that?
Right now, they're trying to pass the Save America Act. It's a sane bill. It's nothing radical about it. You show photo ID, show two proofs of existence, passport,
Right.
a social security card. We do that for driving. We do it to get your ears pierced as a kid. You do it if you go to a club. To
Yeah.
say it, and then the other side's ridiculous, insane argument is it's racist. I mean,
It is
everything they don't
absurd.
like is
It's not
racist these days.
racist.
The word has no meaning. I mean, to prove you exist is racist, then I'm
That is
racist. Then
absurd.
go for it. I mean, it's absurd.
It's absurd.
I mean, that has become an excuse just not to hold things accountable. And AOC said the other day, "Don't fall off your chair, please." Everybody who's listening to Karina, that the conservatives want legal citizens to vote so they can steal elections. I can't get upset that comment's so stupid. The reality
It's
is, if
absolutely
you
insanely stupid.
it is if you need a qualification to work at a legal office, if you need qualifications to work anywhere, or go to a
Exactly.
club, or go to a drugstore to get your medicines, there's a lot of them you do require
No, I
ID.
mean, you go get
Decide
your
War and Peace.
medication.
Decide who's what.
When people go get their medication at the pharmacy, they have to show their ID.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And it
And
makes
to
sense.
decide war and peace and taxes and social issues, you need to show ID, darn it. I mean,
Absolutely.
otherwise, I think you need to get yourself checked into a hospital.
Well, even a hypocrite like Obama, he requires to have IDs presented when they want to go visit their library. Not that I would ever visit his library, but that is hypocritical. Isn't that kind of funny, though, that he is opposed to the Save Act, but he wants IDs to go in and visit his hideous, hideous building of a library. What do you think?
Progressive Hypocrisy 101, Barack Obama. He should teach a course in it. That's what he should do right now. Teach a
That's
course
what
in
he should
progressive
be doing.
hypocrisy. That would be
Absolutely.
great.
Thank you so much, Mike, for being on the show. Thank you for listening and supporting us in We the People podcast show. We're going to be publishing our shows twice a week so far. It'll be more a little bit later. And don't forget to go on our website, wethepeoplecc.org, and also the YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, and share. It is so important that you share the videos and get other people to like and subscribe as well. Thank you so much, Mike. I
A
know you're going to
pleasure.
be on the show at a later point in time discussing other
I'd love
things.
to.
And I can't wait to be on your show soon. We're going to be talking about some important matters there as well.
You are
Thank you so
scheduled. I
much
can't wait to
and
have
have
you.
a great day.
You too.